How do native English speakers respond to thank you? In my school and university I was taught to say not at all or don't mention it in response to thank you. Now I rarely hear these phrases used, but rather something like you're welcome, it's okay, my pleasure, or no problem. My real-life conversation experience is very poor. I often listen to some English learning podcasts, and watch some films in English. So I listen to dialogues, which are probably not from the modern real-life world. How do native English speakers tend to respond to thank you? Now, what I should care about, when choosing from the available options.
In common conversation in the US Midwest I rarely hear not at all or don't mention it. No problem is very common, and you're welcome is also pretty well used. My personal usage. I use not at all, don't mention it, and no problem when the activity I'm being thanked for was really no big deal. I use my pleasure when emphasizing that I'm happy to be of assistance, often in a customer service context, and you're welcome when the action prompting the thanks was a little bit of a bother. In essence I use different phrases to indicate how thanks-worthy the activity was. That's probably not common usage, though. Edit. I think I misrepresented what I originally meant, so here's a little clarification. If someone thanks me for something I always do, for instance I always cook dinner in our house, then I would say no problem or my pleasure depending on context. If I did a chore that was someone else's responsibility, I would say you're welcome even if I was happy to have done it, because it took an extra effort on my part, not because it was a bother.
I don't think you'll have any issues with any of these replies in normal conversation, so I wouldn't let it concern you. There is a relatively new study that claims people who say things such as no problem in reply to thank you, are essentially saying that the thanker's issue was somehow beneath the responder, but I doubt if anyone actually feels like that. It's all a big to-do about nothing, really. If someone thanks you, just be sincere about it, show that you appreciate their acknowledgement of whatever it is that you have done for them in whatever fashion you find comfortable. Heck, use Spanish, say de nada.
You're welcome was taught to me in school, in America, as polite, but no problem and don't mention it are common between friends. My tech support guy always texts NP after I thank him for fixing my computer at work. It seems self-effacing and generous to me.
How native English speakers tend to respond to thank you. Now, what I should care about, when choosing from the available options. In a shop, if the assistant says, thank you, I usually say thank you back to them. Another thing is that quite a lot of the time it isn't necessary to reply to thank you with any particular response phrase. For example, in a dialogue like this. A, here's your key. B, thank you. A, see you next week. There isn't really any need to say any set phrase after the thank you. I think in normal English discourse we often don't reply to thank you in any special way. I don't have any statistics about this, but that is my strong impression.
When I first started traveling on business to the US, from Canada, I felt a little miffed that my thank yous were not being acknowledged. Not with you're welcome, not with happy to or no trouble at all or even no problem. Never mind a thank you response. Then I noticed that, almost all the time, there was a little aha. At first that irritated me more, and then I developed a mental translation between aha and you're welcome and my business trips became less stressful. I don't think anyone will find you odd if you say you're welcome to each thank you. Don't draw any conclusions about people, their mood, whether they are polite, whether they were raised well, their opinion of your gratitude for their act, by what they say to your thank yous. It varies wildly.